Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida FAIRtax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, October 22nd, 2021. President Biden, will you help us take back control of our tax system? According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, as a noun, control has the following meanings: power or authority to guide or manage, or the regulation of economic activity, especially by government directive. Now, we all know that living in a civilized society requires us to give up some degree of control over our lives. We have to obey the speeding laws. We have to wait in line at the DMV. If we're going to work and earn income, we have to abide by the rules and policies of our employer, and we have to pay our bills, because if we don't, we can't obtain the things we need to survive. However, we also know that there is good control and bad control. We're generally happy with good control, but bad control leaves us frustrated and angry. Bad control would be a system where the rules are always changing, they're not applied uniformly, they're not always logical, and they inhibit our behavior in a very intrusive, arbitrary, and unnecessary manner. Good control would be a system where the rules are stable, changing only when necessary and only for a good reason. They are applied uniformly, they're logical, and allow us the maximum degree of personal freedom. Now, there's a direct correlation between the amount of control that we're under and how happy we are. Now, let's look at taxes and control. Rulers have always used taxes to control their populations for as long as there have been rulers. They know that their subjects can support themselves and their families only with what remains after paying their taxes. They also know that if the ruled believe that taxes are too high for what they're getting, the ruled will, as we're seeing now, start to evade those taxes. The great economist Adam Smith said, "Little else is requisite to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence from the lowest degree of barbarism, but peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice, all the rest being brought about by the natural course of things." Now, while no one likes paying taxes, the principles of good control and bad control also apply to taxes. Characteristics of bad control relative to taxes are taxes that are hard to calculate, that require submitting often complicated forms, are not applied uniformly and are full of exceptions for favored groups, that finance services that only the rulers want, that are arbitrary with taxpayers having no control over how much they have to pay. They're easy to evade, so many don't pay what they should, are unpredictable and change frequently and erratically. They unduly hamper business and subsidize and favor one type of business over another. Characteristics of good control with taxes are taxes that are easy to calculate and pay. They are applied uniformly with no exceptions. They finance the services that everyone wants. They give taxpayers some control over how much they'll have to pay. They're hard to evade, so everyone pays their fair share. They're predictable and don't change frequently and erratically, don't unduly hamper business, and don't subsidize or favor one type of business over another. In conclusion, President Biden, the characteristics of good control in taxes are all present in the FAIRtax. The FAIRtax is a far more efficient way to generate revenue for the government. It will show every person in America, multiple times a day, the cost of their federal government. The FAIRtax will reduce the amount of annual increase in the federal debt by at least $1 trillion because it drastically reduces evasion. It brings back higher paying jobs to America that are now being forced overseas by the income payroll tax system. The FAIRtax will allow each of us to pay less or more tax based on our own personal spending decisions and on whether we purchase new goods or used goods. It will eliminate tax returns and the IRS. The FAIRtax will prevent Medicare from running out of money by 2026, will convert Social Security from bankruptcy to solvency, and will rapidly increase the growth of the U.S. economy and the prosperity of all Americans. As Elon Musk once stated, it's okay to have all your eggs in one basket as long as you control what happens to the basket. Mr. President, put us back in control of that basket. Let us take back control of how much we pay to the government. So, what can each of us do? We can write letters and make calls to our elected representatives demanding that if the government really wants to eliminate the burden of filing income tax returns, they should enact the fair tax and do away with tax returns altogether. The great 18th century Irish statesman Edmund Burke made a statement that applies in many ways. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could only do a little. Take back control. Help us pass the fair tax. The IRS will be gone and we'll pay our taxes when we make purchases. We, not the ruling class and their minions in D.C., will decide how much federal tax we pay. If you have friends who don't know about the fair tax, send them to FAIRtax.org. Have them watch the whiteboards under how it works, and if they agree, ask them to please join us. Then, contact your members of Congress and the President and demand that Congress pass the fair tax, the only truly fair tax.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at FAIRtax.org.